Hey, everybody. This is the Drive On Podcast, where we talk about issues affecting veterans after they get out of the military. I'm your host, Scott DeLuzio, and now let's get on with the show. Hey, everyone. Thanks for tuning in to the Drive On Podcast. Today, my guest is Edward Santos, who served with me in Afghanistan in 2010, and he also deployed to Afghanistan in 2006 before that. Since getting out of the military, he's found a more creative outlet, which I wanted to talk to him about that might help be able to help other veterans who are coming back from deployments or getting out of the military. So, Santos, I don't want to give too much away here about what you're up to and things that you have been involved with, but why don't you go ahead and tell us a little bit about yourself?
First of all, let me thank you for inviting me onto your show. This is a real honor. It's been a while since you and I have chatted, and
Yeah.
it's great to be able to reconnect here with on your show. And you know, and I want to congratulate you first on this show. I think it's amazing what you're doing, and getting the word out to other veterans is something that uh, a lot of veterans are extremely passionate about. Because when you return home, it's not always an easy thing to transition back into society, and we all need those different outlets. So yeah, thank you so much for inviting me on, and hopefully I can share a little bit of my experience and different outlets I've found into helping me readjust and stay on that right path. So
Yeah, absolutely. And thank you for being here. So yeah, why don't you maybe tell us a little bit about yourself and kind of your journey, your path, stuff like that.
I, well, Edward Santos. I was born and raised in New York City in the Bronx. Back right before 2001, I was an electrician when the whole 9/11 tragedy happened. That whole patriotic movement is what actually inspired me to join the military. I enlisted in the New York National Guard, transferred to the Puerto Rico National Guard, served with them, went off to basic training here in Fort Benning, in Georgia, where I'm living at now. And then I transferred to Connecticut National Guard in 2004. And shortly after, we went on our first deployment in 2006. So it's been a long road from 2006 to now that we volunteered for that 2009-10 deployment.
Mm-hmm.
And, it just so much has happened since that.
Yeah.
Uh, you know, 2010, I had to leave a little bit early, so I struggled a lot. I was one of the older veterans. I can confidently say, So my body wasn't as fit as the young 20 and 25-year-olds. So I had to leave
Right.
earlier than I wanted to. And, having to leave my team and my platoon mates behind, uh, really, really took a toll on me. I felt a lot of guilt. I felt failure when I got home. My team got home. And when they got home, I was still stuck at Fort Drum for another year after that. Uh, and then another 6 months at West Point after that until the Army medically retired me. So, it was a long struggle. It was bittersweet getting out, and I struggled with that. You know,
Sure.
um, let's see. So, you know, struggling with that, it was really tough. And I think one of the key things and one of the blessings that I've had in my life, first and foremost, have been family. Family has been my support circle. Apologies for that. My mom calls me every day to check up on me.
That's cool.
Yeah, but having a support circle that is really tight knit is key to being able to readjust to whatever traumas or issues that you may be going through when you come back from being on deployment. And so first and foremost, I've always thanked my family for keeping me on that straight and narrow path every
Hmm.
time I take a few steps backwards or feel like I'm stepping backwards. My family is always there to inspire me to continue moving forward.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, that's one of the kind of common reoccurring themes that I've found with talking to other veterans is that, whether it's family or friends or, whatever it is, it's that kind of togetherness that having a core group of people that kind of keep you on that path, the right path to keep your head on straight or, whatever it is. It seems like kind of common thing. And so it's good that, obviously good that you have that as well.
Yeah, it is absolutely crucial. I mean, your family is first watch. They're right there.
Hmm.
They're like your service dog. They know you better than you know yourself.
Sure.
Where you think you're having a great day, they can see that, you know, little things in your attitude, in your anger, in your demeanor are starting to change, and they recognize those red flags right away, and they redirect your attention. So family is absolutely crucial to the beginning of getting into the readjustment of society because they know you better than anybody else. So when I came back, my family was the one that encouraged me to start going to the PTSD groups in at the Newington VA at the time when I was still living in Rhode Island, and I would travel to the Newington VA, on the advice of my family, and
Hmm.
got into some groups there. And at first, like everyone else, especially with being infantry, you're like, there's nothing wrong with me. I can handle anything. I'm freaking Superman, and that's how we all think coming back, especially when you're in a combat unit. You want to still feel like that super soldier, but your body's telling you otherwise, and you're trying to fight it. And it's a constant tennis match. I feel in
Hmm.
your head, it's a tennis match. You're going back and forth with, I'm Superman. No, I'm not. Uh,
Sure. Yep.
well, I took the advice and started going these groups. And one day I'm sitting at the group, and the counselors say, "Hey, there's a Vietnam veteran here teaching veterans who, like yourself, who just returned from overseas, how to paint like Bob Ross." I was like, "What?" Wait, man, I grew up watching Bob Ross paint happy
Right.
little clouds and happy little trees, and maybe a little squirrel lives in this tree here, you know. And I was like, "Yeah, I'd like to try that." And I took the first class, and the class was being taught by a Vietnam veteran, Gary Wallowski, amazing artist, painter, who himself was inspired by Bob Ross. He went down to Florida, took the Bob Ross school, became a certified instructor, and wanted to share that passion. And I was fortunate enough to stumble upon him at the Newington VA, and I took that first class, and I was blown away by the landscape that I painted in 30 minutes. I was just absolutely blown away. I've always seen him on TV
Hmm.
with his soft-spoken voice and painting these amazing landscapes of Alaska and stuff like that. And when I painted that in 30 minutes, I was blown away. I mean, I left that class and I went right to uh, the art store and I bought everything Bob Ross I could find. And every week I would go to Gary's class and paint another landscape, and it was just mind blowing. I started posting these landscapes on Facebook, and people were loving them and wanted them, and I was just blown away that something that I created, the people were loving and were
Yeah.
drawing
And,
interest.
and you
Uh,
and you start from just a blank canvas. There's nothing. It's just a white nothing, and you create this something that people are kind of flocking over, and they're really enjoying to look at and everything like that. So that's an amazing feeling to have. It's like I created this,
yeah,
from nothing. Yeah.
it was absolutely mind blowing. Then I found myself wanting to paint every single day from that 1 week class. So I stuck in my basement just looking up YouTube Bob Ross videos, ordering Bob Ross videos online to come to the house. I can follow along. This way I didn't have to just wait, an entire week. I just couldn't wait. It hit me like a ton of bricks. It just something that, sparked my passion inside.
Sure.
Something I never knew I had, because here I was, infantry for 9.5 years. I worked as a Connecticut correction officer for a couple of years, and my whole life was, growing up in the Bronx. Everything was this rough, hardcore type of lifestyle, And here's this rough, hardcore guy who grew up in this craziness and worked in this craziness, and now I'm sitting in the basement painting beautiful landscapes,
And I've heard actually a story about Bob Ross. He served, I believe it was in the Air Force, and he was, I guess, like amongst the guys who he served or who served under him. He was kind of like a hard ass. Like he would just be, yelling at people, and he just had that, kind of rough and tough kind of, attitude or whatever. And then like he got out and he was like, this isn't me. I don't want to be this guy. Like I was doing a job, and that's what I had to do to get that job done. But I don't want to be that guy. And so he like transformed himself into the guy that you saw on television, that you grew up watching on TV.
It makes absolutely perfect sense in my mind, because, like I said, I was working infantry, and every other word is the F word out of our mouths, where we're talking. Where we're talking amongst each other in a prison environment. Forget about it. You're just yelling everything. Growing up in New York City, in the Bronx, with my friends out in the street corners, everything was just hardcore. And I always felt like I wanted, there was more out there, and the artwork of Bob Ross really, really softened me up. Really allowed me to start viewing life in a different way. When I painted, it was just I was in my own world. I was just coming out of this dark world and entering this. What it reminds me of, like the painting in the movie with Robin Williams. When, I'm not sure if you ever seen that movie, where painting becomes his eternity with his wife after he passes.
Oh, right. Yes. Yeah.
And it just allows you to see the world in color, whereas you're living in this black and white world, and the art really, brightened up the world for me when I would sit there and paint. So I was saying, I started painting, people started noticing it, and one day I had a friend of mine saying, wow, your paintings are really good. You should try to get them into a gallery. I was like, nah, this is just something that I do on my downtime. I'm not comfortable with talking to people and putting my art somewhere. But again, family came into play. They're like, hey, no, you need to do this. Just we'll take you over. You try to get it into your first art show. And what happened was, thankfully, at the same Newington VA, there was a group there started by an Iraqi veteran called the Veterans Art Foundation. And I heard that they were having their first ever art show. So, my family inspired me to approach them. I approached the president who started the foundation, and they accepted my artwork to their first art show. And
oh, nice.
And that just blew the doors wide open when I noticed that here you have a group of veterans who, where you thought you were the only one, now you have a group of veterans who are just like you, painting and sculpting and all types of different art coming from veterans just like yourself. And it was a very inspiring thing to see. And I was fortunate enough to be invited to get heavily involved with them. And when I did, I was able to to be a part of their amazing art shows. They had art shows all over Connecticut, even just inspiring veterans of all eras, Vietnam veterans. We have Vietnam veterans, veterans from the Korean War there displaying their art. You know, it's just absolutely amazing, amazing. And since then, what it taught me was the more I put my art into a place, the easier it became for me to come out of my shell and speak to people. Where I was, I was more of a hermit after coming back, always putting myself down that I failed, that I didn't become a super soldier I wanted to be because my body didn't allow me to. Uh, I became a hermit because of all those thoughts. And every time I would step backwards, I'd get into painting and get involved with the art, and it would just draw me out and draw out this different person inside of me. Who
it's a way to kind of express yourself, and it's almost like that icebreaker. You meet someone for the first time, and you have nothing maybe in common, but you start talking about something like that icebreaker that you might have, and then the conversation kind of flows. Whereas with this, you have your art, and then that's kind of the common bond that people have with you. They see the art, and they talk to you, approach you and talk to you about that, and then it kind of opens up the door, it feels like, to be able to talk to people more freely at that point. Is that sort of along the lines of what you're talking about?
Oh yeah, absolutely. But it wasn't with all the only with veterans. What I noticed was in the beginning when I first started displaying my art, I was that veteran, I was that artist who would place his picture on the wall, and I would stand way back and would just watch people, admire my work and ask for the artist. And I'd be hiding behind a column somewhere because I was afraid to talk about my art and,
Sure.
what inspired me to paint such a thing. But little by little, the Veterans Art Foundation, those fellow veterans would call me out. Hey, that's the artist right there. That's Ed Santos. He painted this. And I would be forced to talk to these people about what inspired me and how I started, and without even realizing it, it opened me up. Before you know it, I was this social butterfly at the art show. At the art show, where I'd hang my wall, and the second I'd see someone looking at one of my pieces, I'd run right up to them, put my arm around them, and I'd tell them exactly why that painting would look great on their walls.
Yeah, because when you were saying that, you kind of like clammed up, and you just like, you weren't talking to people, and you're hiding out in the corner and everything, like that's not the Santos that I knew.
Yeah, it was absolutely amazing, because you know how I was with the fellas. I joke around and stuff like that. After coming home and feeling like I couldn't get into regular society, feeling like a failure, feeling this guilt, it just really knocks you down to the point where you just want to be in bed all day. You don't want to associate with anybody, and the art just drew me out of there, and slowly, I was that hermit at the art show, but little by little, without realizing it, I became that Santos that you remember, kicking down the door in Afghanistan with my guitar, and annoying guys like Gaston saying that I'm Johnny Cash and throw rocks at me, for my horrible guitar playing. Yeah.
Yeah, that's along the lines of what I was talking about. Yeah, you were not the one to just sit back and be quiet. You had the guitar out. You were out there playing. Didn't matter. How good or whatever anyone thought you were. You enjoyed playing it, so you're out there and you're playing. So you did it. So
yeah. So, and that's the kind of things that, going overseas, whether if you're in firefights, or you lose someone, or you come back like I did, feeling like a failure, like I let people down, and I could have done more, but your body's telling you otherwise. You get back over here, and all of a sudden you find yourself alone in your house, and your buddies are no longer around. They're out there trying to build their own lives and stuff like that. And I just really fell into a deep, dark dark place, and it's that that dark passenger, as I call it. I binge watched a lot of shows during that dark time. I binge watched a lot of shows, and Dexter was one of my favorites. And the way he described his demon was his dark passenger. I was like, man, that's exactly what it feels like. Like
Sure.
you have this dark passenger right there, constantly reminding you that you're a failure, that so you have to find ways to keep that dark passenger at bay, and the art was what did it for me. I mean, what does it for me when I feel that dark passenger trying to creep in and say, you're not going to succeed at this. You're not going to succeed at this. You're not going to succeed at this. I pick up my art tools, well, and it redirects my attention and my focus, and that along with my constant support team, it draws me away into a different direction, and
Right.
I still, but the art, I want to inspire. I hope this podcast inspires other veterans to seek out the art, whether it's painting, photography, sculpting, car building, kayaking, whatever it is that you seek out, that you enjoy, that makes you feel free, that makes you open up your eyes and see that there's a beautiful world out there. I want you to go out there and seek it out. For me, it started with painting, and then it slowly transitioned into what is photography now. Because I felt when I was painting that although I loved it, and I was doing really well. I mean, my paintings were everywhere, in different art galleries throughout Connecticut, Rhode Island, and New York. A few art shows in New York City, which was amazing. I always found that I had to be stuck in the basement painting,
Right.
So although I loved it, I always felt like I was stuck in the basement painting. So a fellow artist one day suggested, hey, why don't you go out and start taking pictures with your iPhone and painting your photographs? And I was like, man, that's a neat idea. So I couldn't afford an expensive camera, so I started with my iPhone. And what I found out was that there was this entire community of mobile photographers who call themselves iPhonographers,
Mm-hmm.
and yeah, and there's a big movement that started called iPhonography, and I was blown away what the iPhone camera and could do, and how recognized it was among the art community. And so I started taking pictures, and without even realizing it, the pictures that I intended to go back home and paint, they never got to the canvas because the photography, without realizing, drew me out of that basement. Once I started seeing the pictures that I could capture with my phone, I was like, wow, here I was outdoors now.
Right.
Wanting my wife to take me here and take me there. I want to go photograph this sunset. I want to go photograph this. I want to photograph this wave. There's a storm coming in. I want to get pictures of waves. And I was living by the beach in Rhode Island, so I had the opportunity to walk down to the beach every day and get pictures of waves and the sand and the sky. And so I started creating artwork with just my phone, and digital painting with different apps that allow you to turn your photography into a work of art.
Mm-hmm.
And so I started doing that and dabbling and going to galleries where they were having mobile photography art shows. And I decided to submit one of my photographs, and I turned into a piece of art. And lo and behold, it was juried into the gallery for the show. And next thing you know, here I was. I was having photographs that I created with my iPhone in galleries throughout Connecticut, Rhode Island, and then New York, and started getting more heavily involved in the mobile photography community on different Facebook groups, getting more recognition for my artwork, getting the banner cover photo here and there. I was blown away. And then one of my biggest achievements came of a photograph of a friend of mine that I took, because there was a call for artists for iPhone photography only. called Impossible Humans, and this show was in Italy. I was like, man, wouldn't that be great if I could get into a show in Italy?
Mm-hmm.
I took a photograph, a portrait of my buddy, and I turned it into this black and white portrait and send it over to Italy. Next thing you know, I'm getting an email back. Congratulations, you've been accepted to the show. And a month later, congratulations, you won Best in Show. I was like, wow.
Wow. Yeah.
That was amazing. To see, something that started out from nothing into getting so much recognition in Europe.
Yeah.
I was completely away.
I think one of the big takeaways from that is that if you let that kind of darkness kind of linger over you and just, oh, I'm not good enough, I'm not going to do this kind of artwork, I'm not going to go out and I'm not going to take these pictures, I'm not going to do any of that stuff because I'm just not good enough. And you let that darkness just linger over you, none of the good stuff would have come from that. That good stuff of, sending your picture to that show in Italy and then winning the, Best in Show, winning over there, like that wouldn't have happened if you just allowed that kind of dark cloud to kind of hang over you, so you kind of you almost have to force yourself to do some of this stuff in order to break through and see the more positive stuff that's out there. But it's a good thing that you do that type of stuff, because otherwise, you'd still be thinking, oh, well, I'm just not that good enough. I'm not good enough. I shouldn't even bother, whatever. So,
but yeah, I absolutely heavily, advise veterans, every veteran. I mean, I'm still a part of PTSD groups. One of the biggest things that I like to get that I'm involved in is with the Vet Center. I love going to the Vet Center and the groups out there. But I've seen the arts, how it changed the way I was, and how it's changed a lot of veterans. A lot of the veterans that I started with in Connecticut they continue their art shows out there. They have monthly art shows. It drew them out of that PTSD group, and from where I saw veterans that only went from home to the group and back home, to now veterans starting groups where they meet once a week and they travel in groups to botanical gardens, on boat rides. That veteran group that was started by Vietnam veterans in Newington, Connecticut, they're still going strong. I mean, they got me out on an amazing tour when I was living over there to photograph lighthouses around New England. That was it. And these were all guys who at one point were just, going from their house to the group and back, and now all of a sudden they're in groups, and they're in, the group started from one or two guys who love photography to a group of about 15 to 20, and they're probably bigger now. So the arts inspires you to inspire others and see the world in a different place. Right? So I went from painting on a canvas to picking up the camera and now photographing with a camera. And what I noticed every time every time my wife is, look, she knows me better than I do. When she sees my demeanor changing, my attitude changing, she'll pick up my camera and say, let's go for a ride, and what looking through that lens, I'm able to see the beauty of the world. And it absolutely overshadows whatever darkness or whatever it is that I'm going through or thinking about. Seeing the colors, especially this time of year, I'm looking forward to the fall foliage, because that's just, it's peace and tranquility and just mesmerizing and just something that really makes you feel good inside. And the arts can do that for you. Whether you're sitting there creating something out of clay, where you 2 seconds ago thinking about dark times or a significant loss, now your mind is redirected and you're creating a thing of beauty from your mind, and you're putting your thoughts into that project, and it's amazing where your thoughts, a lot of times for me, where they're dark, when I take that photograph, that dark thought now just became this beautiful landscape.
Yep.
Yeah. Or, when I was painting, those dark thoughts now are beautiful colors on a canvas that people are loving and are being inspired by. So I highly recommend and suggest to other veterans to you pick up some sort of art, get involved in groups where you're going to meet other veterans who are like-minded, and listen to your family. Your family is your biggest support. They're your first responders.
Mm-hmm.
That's
Yeah.
how I see my family. They're my first responders. They know me. They're like a PTSD dog who knows a veteran who has epilepsy. Knows before even a veteran does. That's your family. They're the first responders who pick up on your slightest little change and can redirect your focus. People at the vet center, PTSD groups, you're always going to find somebody. Get involved.
Yeah, and I found that the veteran community, no matter what era you came from, whether it's our era, the Iraq, Afghanistan wars, or Desert Storm, or Vietnam, or earlier, or whatever. If you're a veteran, the other veterans kind of want to help each other. We want to lift each other up. Yeah, sometimes we'll talk about each other and we'll kind of joke around and everything like that. But it's all coming from a place of love, I believe, where we truly want each other to, be better and get better, or do great things and reach our full potentials. And so if you don't have that community, that group of people, even if you don't have a family around you that you are comfortable with, that you could trust or whatever, like, get involved in some of these groups. And I think that will help drive you forward to those bigger and better things, like you were talking about, and get involved with these organizations, or other people, whether it's at the vet center or a VA program or PTSD groups or whatever. The people who are going there, they don't go there like wanting to see you fail. Like, they go there because they're trying to get through their own issues, and they, if they can help you, maybe that will also help them. And so that's kind of how each other can kind of lift each other up and get through these issues together.
I found for me what the has been more helpful rather than the VA. I try to stay away from VA groups run by a VA personnel, because for me, what I found is VA personnel are just looking to write on their daily sheet how they cured you.
Right.
Compared to a VA group that's run by a volunteer civilian, like the art group that I had was run by a volunteer Vietnam veteran, and his sole purpose was just to share his love with his fellow veteran. He wasn't writing on a sheet at the end of the day, so and so attended the class and he's fucking cured. And I know a lot of veterans are hesitant to feeling like they're being clinically analyzed. And I know I always had an issue. I always closed up, and I still do. When I go to my psychiatrist, when I go to anything that's VA related medically, I close up like a clam, and I don't open up because I just feel like they're analyzing you just to put in their report. But when I get involved with civilian type veterans who are genuinely there to support you and see you get better and see you, do good things in life, that's where I function at my best. That's when I open up, and that's when I'm able to, share and be enthusiastic about my passion, about my work, about the beauty that art offers. So if you're going to get involved, find those genuine places that, the VA does offer where, a veteran will volunteer his time. Those type of groups. The vet center does the same thing. Groups where they're not run by counselors; they're run by fellow veterans.
Right.
Community centers have different activities where veterans can come and gather together, and you're not being judged, you're not being analyzed, you're not being looked at as, you're not being, being looked at like you're faking your injuries that people can't see, because a lot of people can't see what's wrong with you.
Mm-hmm.
I found that with people in the military who were like cooks or mechanics, who I met through fellow art groups, and their biggest thing was, well, I'm not infantry. I didn't do anything. People always ask me, why am I feeling this way when I didn't do anything to cook? And I always tell them, I said, listen, you served overseas. You were in a hostile environment. Every day there, you didn't know if you were going to come home, if the rocket was going to land in your fob, if there was going to be an overrun of your fob, or whatever the case may be, traveling to and from one base to another. You didn't know what was going to happen. That weighed heavily in your mind.
Absolutely.
Just because you didn't go out there like the infantry did, and get into these fights and do all this craziness that combat units do, doesn't mean that you don't have some sort of PTSD. You feared for your life every day that you were there. That's traumatic.
Sure. Absolutely. And bottom line is they did what their country asked of them. They went to a training to learn how to be a mechanic or a cook, or whatever the job is that they did. And
you were part of that 1% that raised your hand and said, I will defend my country. You should be proud of that. It doesn't matter if you were infantry or if you were, you raised your right hand and you served your country honorably. And
yeah, and I even know some guys. I know some guys who served in like the mid '90s when there were no major conflicts going on at that point, and they felt the same way, even though they may have been infantry or something like that, or whatever, and they may have felt the same way because they felt like, I didn't deploy, I didn't go and do anything.
But you raised your right hand and you served your country honorably.
Exactly.
Right thing.
Yeah, and they still were part of that deterrent. The fact that America still had a military force that was there, it still acted as a deterrent to prevent outside forces from coming in and ruining our way of life or whatever. So the fact that they didn't feel like they actually went out and did anything doesn't mean they didn't do anything, because they still were there. They still, like you said,
they were ready to go when the country needed them.
Exactly.
If and when.
Yeah.
If and when they were ready to deploy at a moment's notice. So,
Yeah. So.
But I've met guys like that who walk around with this guilt, and I've seen how the arts have been able to help them as well. I mean, it's just the art is an amazing tool, whether it's music, painting, photography, pottery. I highly encourage each and every one of you guys out there to try some sort of seek out some sort of outlet like the arts to help you cope with whatever you're going through. You're going to see a dramatic change where if you were like me, or if you're like me, where that dark passenger tries to overtake you here and there, pick up that camera, pick up that guitar, even if you can't play it as I did.
So, is there anything that you wish someone would have told you before you joined the military? Some kind of either advice or things to look out for or anything like that. And it doesn't necessarily have to be with regards to arts or anything like that. Just any generic advice for the next generation of troops that might be listening to this.
I'm actually the first ever in my family to join the military.
Mm-hmm.
So I didn't really seek out any advice. I saw the whole patriotic movement. I didn't look for any advice. And I'd say, I'm proud. I'm proud that I made the decisions that I did. It got me out from where I was born and raised, and showed me a whole different world. And I think a lot of people are afraid to join the military because they think they're immediately going to go to war and stuff like that.
Right.
But my thing, I'm always trying to push people towards the military because it got me from this poor Puerto Rican kid who grew up in the ghettos of the Bronx to a Puerto Rican kid who's ready to buy his second house. I have issues that I've dealt with in the military, but it's also expanded my family. Everyone that I served with, in the 9.5 years that I was in, is a brother or a sister and someone that I can call anytime, day or night, and know that pretty much that they're always going to pick up and be there for me, if I needed them. So as far as it, wishing that someone gave me any advice, no, I say I do it all over again without any advice.
Okay.
I feel about the military. I do it all over again about you struggle and when you're in it, you're sucking life and you're hating life. But when you get out and you're not in it anymore, I know for myself, I miss it. I miss it a lot when I still see these guys a lot of our friends who are still in and still serving. And I'm like, wow, man, I wish I was still there with them.
Yeah. And it's a sense of pride that you have too, for what you've done, for your country and for your community and everything like that, to be able to serve. And that's kind of the thing that, for me, when I was going through all of that, the training that sucked, and the cold, sleeping outside in the winters, and the when it's raining on you and everything else, and it just sucks. Just knowing that at some point I'm going to be able to look back on this and be like, I'm proud of what I did, and everything. And I think that that to me was kind of a motivation to kind of keep going. It's like, what we're doing sucks right now, but it's for a bigger cause. It's bigger than myself. It's bigger than even this group of guys that I'm with. And so looking back on that, it was something to be proud of. So.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So, anything else that you might want to add before we kind of wrap up? Kind of coming up on time here.
Oh, well, if you're interested in seeking out the arts, look at your local communities, your vet centers. I'm sure there are guys there who have started art groups.
Yeah.
There's always call for artists. I'm going to give Scott some information on a current call for artists for art. For an art show in Rhode Island area that you guys might want to get involved if you're artists. And I'll give him all the contact information that hopefully he can put out for y'all. But in your states, in your counties, in your towns, and even if they don't have that, you might feel inspired to start your own veterans art group.
Yeah.
And where your photographer go out on walks to the parks, to the local aquarium, to the local zoos, and just have a field day with local veterans, and you'll see how amazing it is to get together and go out there and start seeing the world through the eyes of a camera, or being able to paint what you saw when you get home. So I encourage everyone to go out and seek some sort of art. It's gonna take you places you never dreamed of. I promise you that.
Well, awesome. And I just wanted to thank you again for being on the show. It's amazing to be able to share, the success that you've had with your artwork and everything. And, looking forward to seeing more art coming out of you. I see you posting stuff on Facebook all the time, and looking forward to future artwork that comes out of you.
Thank you. Thank you. It was definitely an honor and a privilege to be on your show. And, I want to wish everyone the best out there. Thanks a lot, man.
All right. Thank you.
All right. Love you.
Thanks for listening to the Drive On Podcast. If you want to check out more episodes or learn more about the show, you can visit our website, driveonpodcast.com, or on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram at Drive On Podcast.